Well, hola everybody, and buenos dias. Hope you're doing well today and that you get something valuable from today's video. Before we get rolling though, make sure you hit the subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up. And one more thing, according to a lot of folks, the YouTube algorithm, the algorithm gets all excited when people post comments or they post questions. And the more people comment on a video, the more YouTube pushes that video out so others will see it. So if you would, feel free to comment away. So as you know, I am no lawyer. I'm not, but I do know some really good ones, honest ones that I think you can trust in the event you have an issue with your Lemon RV. From my perspective, it seems that there are really pretty much two different kinds of situations where you can benefit from dealing with a lawyer to help resolve your problem. One is when it's not a gigantic issue, but it's a troublesome one. But again, it's not a catastrophic issue. Those lawsuits, I believe, can be fairly quickly resolved. They can, with the right attorney representing you. Then there are the holy cow, mother of all types of RV issue type of claims. And I think that we have all heard about them. And if you find yourself in that kind of a nightmare scenario, understanding what you may be headed for legal-wise is what we're talking about today. If I'm a consumer who is at the end of my proverbial rope and I think that I've got to sue my manufacturer to get any kind of satisfaction, resolution, I think it sounds like I need to be prepared for war. A long, painful, time-consuming ordeal, because these things don't resolve easily and it's, readily.
If you're at the end of the rope, it's probably because your RV didn't get to the end of the road. The problem is, you're right. You do have to kind of gird your loins, if you will. Get ready. The more prepared you are before ever going to a lawyer, the easier and faster and more successfully your case is going to end up being handled. And that basically means putting your groundwork together. Write your letters, make your phone calls, keep your diary, keep all your repair orders together. It's kind of one of those things, and I think I probably said it, I don't know how many times before. It's like Murphy's Law. As soon as you figure out I may end up having to do a lawsuit here, so I'm going to get everything together and clearly lay out what's happening to me, so later on I'll know for sure what happened. If you do all that, they'll probably take care of you and you won't need it. You don't do all that, you'll probably be sitting in front of a lawyer who'll be asking you, gosh, I sure wish you had done that.
But even if I've done all that, and even if I hire the Burdge law firm to go after a manufacturer, even you sometimes can't get a real quick decision. Don't manufacturers push back on you from time to time and delay, install, and kick the can down the road? That's what I'm asking is what do I need to be prepared for? Because some of these manufacturers want to hold on to that money and they don't want to pay a claim. Or am I off base here?
No, I think you're right about that idea. The fact of it is that they're in business to make money, and a side effect of it is that they're in business to keep the money too. So you're right, they don't exactly roll over. But it's been interesting lately, I've noticed that there's been some change of attitude of a couple of manufacturers in particular, where if the case looks good and strong, they're not going to fight nearly as much, and they'll argue and debate. And quite often we're now getting settlement offers that include buybacks or replacement. And that just didn't happen 2 years ago. It just never saw that kind of a thing without filing a lawsuit. So it's getting a little more easier to deal with manufacturers if you've got a solid case of real problems that they've never been able to deal with. But you're right. You get to a point, if you're going to a lawsuit stage, where you got to be ready to go as far as you need to, or as far as you want to.
Have you ever had a case that just drags on and I don't know, that you won or maybe lost, but let's just take the win. Have you ever had one that just seemed like the manufacturer wouldn't settle and they should have settled? It's like one of those things. Told you guys you should have settled. Give me an example. I don't know.
Well, the first one that comes to mind, and actually it makes me remember the phrase, never give up. The Churchill phrase, never, never, never quit.
Yeah.
That is so very true when it comes to the lawsuit stage. You really have to go into it with the idea that this is where you are, you're right, and you're not going to quit. People who go in with that attitude usually come out a whole lot better in the process at the end, whether it's a verdict or a settlement or whatever, than those who just decide, well, I want to give that a try. You don't file a lawsuit to give it a try, in my opinion. You file a lawsuit to go after them, to make things happen the way they should have been in the first place. And that means it will take some time. It may cost some money. It will certainly cost some aggravation and delay. And so you got to look at those aspects before you actually decide to go down the lawsuit road, so to speak. But
give me an example. Give me an example, if you would, of a manufacturer that could have settled for something small, but it ended up costing them a lot more. Have you got any?
Best example I can give you there. I don't know if I won't give the name of the manufacturer unless you ask for it, but I'll give it. I have no problem with that. We had a case against a manufacturer in Indiana over a RV that was sold for $125,000. The sticker wasn't a whole lot more than that because it was sold close to the sticker, but it was only a $125,000 motorized RV. That's not all the money. There's a lot of them sell for more than that, but the RV company just refused to recognize the defects and the seriousness of it. They had literally everything, the usual bucket load of all kinds of problems, major of which was the slide-out system. And the slide-out system just simply would start and stop and not go, or it would stop and not even go at all. And it was a perennial problem. And they were in a ton of times trying to get it fixed. We ended up, actually, I was called into that case after it was about halfway through the system, or a little bit more than that. They asked me to take it over. And first thing we did was try to get to a mediation. The trial, in fact, was getting ready to be scheduled. We went to what was I believe it was the third mediation that the case had actually been to, but it was the first one I was with them. And they actually had a high corporate officer sit down at this judicial mediation conference. Now, what that means is you got the consumer, you got somebody with high-powered ability to settle from the factory, and you've got a magistrate judge in the federal court system. A judge, in other words, is usually somebody the lawyers pay a little bit more attention to, and so do the people in the room, because they know that that person is legally looking at this situation more so than some people might. We tried like the Dickens to get them to agree to take it back. Take it back and give them back all their money or most of their money, pay the legal costs and be done with this. The factory rep never offered more than $50,000.
Hang on, Ron, I got to stop here real quick. Mm-hmm. I'm dying to know, who was the manufacturer? I mean, if you could say it, who was, I'm not trying to bash him, but if this is a real story, unless you can't say it, who was the manufacturer?
No, I can say it. It was Gulfstream.
Okay, so Gulfstream,
and they just fought like the Dickens. And I always scratch my head when I see that kind of thing, and I think to myself, these people aren't looking at this from a business point of view. Because if you look at it from a business point of view, it doesn't make a lot of sense for an RV company to fight these cases as hard as they do, because these cases include the fee shifting thing that makes them get stuck with the legal fees. And in that case, they wouldn't settle. We ended up going to trial. And in the course of the trial, the jury heard all about all the troubles, and they heard especially about how the RV company did an inspection of it, and they had the slide maker come out and attend the inspection too, and it broke on them again and couldn't get fixed. So it was kind of like, all right, what do you got to do here? And they still wouldn't settle the case. The jury came back and awarded $150,000 on a $125,000 RV, and the owner got to keep the RV and get rid of it on his own in whatever way he wanted to. Wow. And then the attorney fee motion kicked in. The attorney fee motion and what they paid by the judgment, it ended up close to $500,000, and they could have avoided the whole thing so easily and far, far cheaper, but they just dug in their heels.
Wow. And so that was Gulfstream, and you talk about slide outs. Slide outs, I'm no lawyer, I'm no mechanic, but I've got, I think, a little bit of common sense. Slide outs are a huge issue, I think, with many manufacturers. And it's not just the mechanics, the gears and the system, the Schwinn tech. It's not just that. It's a lot of times the people that build them, they're just not going to fit in the hole.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen those cases where the hole was so tight with the box that goes in as the slide out. And I've also seen those cases where it's incredibly loose. And because you end up with a hole bigger than the compartment, the slide out, if you will, that's going into it, you have just the same problems. Those things, I've seen those cases going back 20 years plus. They haven't gone away.
So what does somebody do? And because I see on YouTube all the time, I get emails from people that buy a new RV and the slide out works. Okay, it works, but it kind of makes funny noises, seems to jump a little bit, closes a little bit faster on one side than the other. Is that a warranty issue? Is that
Yes.
something? What?
If it's during the time that you bought it, when the warranty was still in force, it's a warranty issue. And you need to go ahead and make your appointment with the dealer. Be sure you send a letter by ordinary mail, along with whatever email you like, but definitely by ordinary mail, and keep a copy of it to the factory and to the dealer. And if the dealer set the loan up for you, then I always say send a copy to the bank too, so that everybody knows you're getting serious about this thing. And keep copies of all that. Give them repair chances. Give them more than just one. Typically, you need at least 3 in order to have a solid case, or at least certainly a more solid case. Or else you need to have roughly 152 days or more out of service for warranty work on it. And that's a lot of patience for somebody who spends a lot of money for an RV that they didn't have any intention of it sitting in a shop someplace.
Yeah, you're making payments on it, insurance payments, registration, storage, maintenance, and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to your illustration of Gulfstream and the big case that they probably should have settled much earlier, were your clients required? I would imagine they'd be required to sign an NDA. We talk about that often, and we hear about it, these non-disclosure agreements at settlement. Isn't that the way manufacturers get people just shut up and make it go away and disappear so they don't ever talk about this problem they had?
That is the way. But I think it's important for people, particularly consumers, to know something most of them don't know, and actually something that the factories either don't know or don't care about. And that is that a couple of years ago, there was a federal law passed, covers the whole country, and it's the Consumer Review Act. And what that law says is that you have a right to free speech, and they can't take it away from you. You have a right to say what you think about a product, for instance, and they can't legally force you to give it up. But on the other hand, when people just want to get the case settled, they quite often will do that because the factories will always ask for it. And frankly, it's a violation of the law for them to be asking, but they're going to ask anyway.
It's funny how social media during the COVID times, everybody was wanting to get out and they couldn't go cruising, and they so they bought RVs, and social media helped sell a bajillion RVs.
Yeah.
And the industry was taking advantage of that, as any industry would. But now that there are so many of these COVID campers that are going back and people having issues, that same social media that was blowing up sales I think it's destroying. It is hurting the reputation of many of these manufacturers that cut corners during that entire COVID period when they couldn't find the right employees to build a quality product, yet they kept pushing them out the door.
I think that is absolutely true. I saw a report just this morning. There was a 17.3% drop in RV retail sales from last March to this March of this year. And that was a huge drop considering everything else in picture here. And I think that a big part of that drop, which by the way included the towables and the cracked frame problems that we see and hear about, fifth wheels and towables. Well, I think a big part of that drop is because of all the defects, and that they're all coming to light from the COVID RVs, so to speak. And the cracked frames didn't help them sell more RVs.
I'll tell you, I am so grateful for Ron Burdge's willingness to find the time to talk with us about these kinds of things, problems that RVers may and do run into. Think about the story he just said about Gulfstream. Imagine their shock when they came back with nearly a $500,000 settlement against them. I hate to laugh, but I don't know what else to say. I also honestly, I hate having to hire a lawyer for something that shouldn't be necessary. What about you? But you know what? It's a good thing there are people like Ron Burdge who are there to work and get an acceptable resolution to people's problem RV. By the way, if RV manufacturers just built an RV that would last, using parts that would actually work for more than just a few months or till right after the warranty runs out, I think people like Ron Burdge wouldn't have nearly the amount of business they do have. In any event, if you have a situation with your RV and you'd like to get it off your chest, I'd like to hear from you. My 24-hour voicemail is on the screen right now. Yes, it is right here. And my email is down below, so just let her rip. My contact information is in that description. My voicemail number, as well as email address, all kinds of stuff down below. I love hearing from you folks and actually talking with you when I can. And if you think that you may have a Lemon RV, but you're not sure, Ron Burdge's law firm has put together a web page where you can get a free evaluation from an actual RV Lemon lawyer, and they'll let you know if they think that you may have a case that's worth pursuing. And a link to that is also in the description down below. So thanks to everybody for watching. Y'all stay cool out there. The official start to summer is not even here yet, and it's been crazy hot already. That's going to do it for today. The Wingman is out of here.